The 80s Rewind Show podcast, where the past meets the present.
Hi, it's Rob the Face Radio Burgess from the 80s Rewind Show podcast. I hope you're doing well out there. So I'm listening to this fantastic book. I'm saying listening. I'll tell you why in a minute. It's called Wham, George and Me, and it's by Andrew Ridgeley, and it's an autobiography of the Wham years and him and George's friendship. If you're a Wham fan, it's fantastic. You've got to pick this book up. It starts on the 28th of June, 1986, at their last gig at Wembley Stadium, and it goes backwards from there to when they became friends at school. So basically, George started school. They needed someone to show him around. Andrew volunteered, and then they became best friends and pop icons from there. There's loads of stuff in the book I didn't know about George Michael. I always wondered how it worked. I wondered if George wrote the music and then the lyrics separately, or if he just wrote lyrics and someone wrote the music for him. Turns out when Andrew went around to see him for the first time, he had a drum kit and a synthesizer. So George was already a musician from the start. And a drummer. I had no idea he was a drummer. He auditioned for a band called the Quiffs to be the drummer for this band, but didn't get in because he didn't look right. Ironically, he didn't look right. How funny is that? I spoke to Simon Napier-Bell, their manager, and I'll put a link to it below in the interview. Now, if you're a musician in general or a Wham fan, you've got to listen to that because it's absolutely an amazing interview. And he talks a lot about getting Wham into China and how we first met George and Andrew. So he says in the book, this is Simon Napier-Bell, he said to me that Andrew and George were one unit. So he said you could tell when they walked in the room, they were absolutely one unit. George was the left half, Andrew was the right, and they were one thing. And you get that in this book. You can tell that once they became friends, they were completely inseparable. Even their parents tried to separate them at one point because they thought Andrew was a bad influence on George. It didn't happen. They could not separate these two boys. They were destined for fame and songwriting and everything that they got because they were amazing. So like anybody else, times are hard, and I had Audible. So I thought, I'll get around to listening to this book at some point. I'll buy it in the future. I was talking to my mum, and she said, look, why don't you join the library? If you join the library, you can get audiobooks for free. And I'm sure this is the same in America. So if you go to your local library and you sign up, you can get an app called Libby, and you can download audiobooks from there. And I did exactly that. So I downloaded the audiobook, and Andrew Ridgeley is reading it out, and he reads it absolutely beautifully. When he talks about George, he calls him Yog because that was his nickname for it. And whenever he says Yog, you can tell he says it with absolute love and compassion. There's no doubt these two men absolutely loved each other, and they experienced something like nobody else ever could have done. They were absolutely amazing. I managed to see George live 10 years ago. He was fantastic. I'd love to have seen Wham at that last final gig in 1986. Please like and subscribe. Check the book out. Tell your friends all about the show. Tell your friends all about this book. It's absolutely amazing. I'm only halfway through, and I can't wait to get to the end. Although I don't want to finish it because I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm going to end on a Wham joke. Why did Andrew and George have chocolate all over their hands? Because they were careless with their whispers. I'll see you next time.